Welcome everyone from all the scattered time zones that you've joined us from. My name is Neil Ford. I am one of your co-hosts for the Katas event, and the other co-host is my friend and co-author, Mark Richards.
Oh, welcome everyone to the Katas Super Stream for fall of 2021. Lots of great stuff in store for you in this Super Stream. You'll be able to see videos of all of the semifinalists, and then we're going to do something where during the break you all will get to see what your opinion is about the winners. So make sure you pay attention to those videos, and all sorts of great resources as well in here, and then to be able to announce the winners.
Exactly. So in the unlikely chance that you stumbled onto this super stream and don't realize what we are doing the finales for here, we'll give you a quick recap and a little bit about this idea of katas, which is something that Mark and I have been using for a number of years when we teach live training classes. You know, it's so hard to do hands-on activity as an architect. It's really hard to practice doing architecture, and that's the thing that's so great about this idea of architecture katas, is it does give you a way to really apply some of the trade-off muscles that you have to use as you assess the decisions you have to make in an architecture. We've done this for a number of years for training classes, and even incorporated a few of the katas into our fundamentals book as a great way of illustrating these architectural concepts. Most of the katas that we have created are for Greenfield, and they are little toy projects for things like hot dog stands or, chat bot nurses and things like that. But we were lucky enough in the first round of our public katas, which we did last year, to find a real company, Pharmacy Foods, who had a need for an architectural solution. And in fact, the first time we did this remotely on the platform, we worked through a large number of submissions. Mark was the head judge on that one and helped come up with the judging criteria that we now use for this. And we developed a solution for Pharmacy Foods. But, there are lots of different kinds of architecture out in the world. One of them is Greenfield, which the first kata really illustrated. But another architectural challenge is, what if you take an existing system but need to add some integration points onto it? And that's exactly the problem that we tackle this time around, taking the solution that won from the original katas, which was from the team Arc Collider, and building onto that to build this idea of Pharmacy Family, an add-on that adds social networking and a bunch of other interaction points to the idea of Pharmacy Foods. And that's what we're going to be seeing the finales of today. So we did our kickoff meeting a few weeks ago. We had a bunch of teams sign up. We had our judges get together and assess what those teams came up with. We did an event a few weeks ago where we announced the semifinals. The semifinals then went and doubled down on their effort and did a whole bunch more work. And what they did to try to win the final great prize here is put together these 5-minute video clips presenting their architectural solution. This is a really great thing to see as a resource. Of course, from a Pharmacy Food standpoint, it's a Pharmacy Family, it's one thing, but so rarely do professional architects get to see other architects pitch their ideas. A lot of times you pitch your idea, but it's rare to see other teams really pitch their idea and try to sell them. So it's a great benefit to see these kind of complete architectural solutions wrapped up with a presentation to try to convince our judges and you, our viewers, as to which one has the best architecture. All right, we ready to check out the semifinalists now? I believe we are. We've put this off long enough for people to start seeing them. So let's look at the semifinals. As Mark mentioned before, each one of the teams was required to create an architectural solution, which is in a GitHub repository. You can see those links. You'll see the link on the slide, but you'll also, they're in the resources, so you can go look at that repo if you want. But part of the ask for the semifinalists was to create a 5-minute video that explains their solution and sells their idea. And now what we're going to do is have the judges go through those videos and let you see each one, and we'll get some comments on each one. So with that,
Thank you.
over to the semifinal.
Actually, I might add a point before we launch on that. That the presentation of the 5-minute videos is random. So there's no particular order in any of these. So just because the first one comes up doesn't mean it's first place. And so I just wanted to put that caveat there to add to the suspense of the unveiling after the break.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Neil, for explaining the process and what we are doing here again. So that we can go ahead here. And like Mark was saying, we have 7 semifinalists of the X number of teams that put in their proposals. And what we are going to do is now go through each one of those teams and their presentations. And after each presentation, Neil or Mark's going to ask a little bit about what we liked about the presentation and things like that to the 4 of our judges. We'll comment a little bit and go on to the next one. And these 7 are in random order, so don't make up any, think of anything based on the order of the presentations here. So the first semifinalist that we had is Pentagram, and off we go to the video here of Pentagram team.
Hello, everyone, to this O'Reilly Architecture Katas 2021. We are Pentagram 2021, and these are the 5 members who want to share the pharmacy family system architecture and design with you guys. So what is the problem statement? Bob actually has been using this existing system called Pharmacy Food, where the whole idea is to use food as medicine. Awesome idea. And he's been actually seeing the great results. But he's actually thinking that how he can be more engaged within the platform, where he can actually be, engaging with other customers, with his doctors, dietitians, and relying more on the system so that the system can recommend better foods to treat actually different sorts of medical problems that he or other, for example, in the community are going through. And that's where actually this solution comes into picture. So Pharmacy Food team has been thinking about extension of this platform and actually heard their customers as well. And that's where this pharmacy family idea came into existence. So let's actually dive into the characteristics and architectural styles. We as a team actually list down these high-level requirements, number them R1, R2, and so on for traceability perspective, color-coded them, and then on the right-hand side, you see these are the quality attributes out of those requirements, what we as a team think those requirements are talking about. And we try to actually limit them between 7 to 8. And these are explicit architecturalities, and there are some implicit one, but for now we can just focus on these. And considering these quality attributes, for sure we're going to be building a distributed system. And any distributed system that we build nowadays, typically most of them are the default thing. Mindset is, hey, let's actually start building the microservices. But we as a team, based on our experience, believes that microservices, it's easier for most of the time to build, but really difficult to manage if we don't actually use the right frameworks, tools, and actually requires a set of maturity as well. And considering pharmacy system or pharmacy team still actually in the startup mode, it's better actually to use a mix of service-based architecture style, which actually basically also provides where we have few services with a database and also actually provides a path towards migration in future to the microservices if they need be. Along with actually the event-driven, because any distributed system we built as of today has some sort of actually event-driven needs as well. So let's actually dive into the system design. Well, we started actually with a typical component identification based on the requirements. Try to map actually those components what we think with the requirements, and at the end of the day, actually have some kind of a ballpark figure. Okay, what are the things or components that we need to build? What are the things that we can actually, for example, get it from either the cloud providers or something else. This is actually a typical user journey where, what it says is a pharmacy food customer actually becomes an engaged customer. And then from there onwards, within the pharmacy family, they have different models, engagement models that, they can basically be part of. And at the end of the day, actually getting some great results actually out of it. So let's actually look at a landscape diagram. So system landscape diagram actually not very specifically just talking the pharmacy family system here in this case, but all these different systems that are in play in order for us to build actually the pharmacy family system. So, you see the pharmacy food system, analytics system, CMS, medical, e-dietitianist, notification, all these different systems that are in play, and then different actors. Now let's actually dive into the pharmacy family. So this is a very specific pharmacy family system context diagram, and all these other systems that either pharmacy family integrates or those systems actually rely on the pharmacy family system in general. And then this is actually a container diagram in terms of C4 model, and this is now actually we are basically diving into the pharmacy family system typical, and we see actually there's a web application, mobile application for different sets of users that we can have, and they can actually access it through different means. We have actually our single page application that actually then integrates with the API applications, is the backbone or the back end of our applications. There's the database, and the API application integrates with other third-party systems as well. This is a component diagram, which is a deep, the next level inside the API application, how the API applications basically has been built. And as we see, there are different controllers, different components, different facade, and it says like how actually it's going to integrate with these different systems that we're going to be relying, for example, CMS, notifications, database, and things like that. This is actually the analytics container diagram. Basically indicates that, hey, there are different data sources coming in, goes through the event bus, which we are going to be using Kafka as per our ADR. And then, while the ingestion process, it goes, and then, there's going to be a training model, which generates actually an ML. And, then we're going to be actually rely on the ML to do some recommendations at the end of the day. This actually in general shows the pharmacy family deployment diagrams. You see there are API applications, there are web applications, databases, primary and secondary database, and other actually dependent systems that are not actually in our control, because most of the time, for example, CMS system, medical system, these are actually already existing systems that running most probably on the cloud that we're going to be relying on. These are some of the key links that's actually out there. We started with the requirements, quality attributes, ADRs, and overall solutions. Last but not the least, I want to thank actually Neil and other judges to provide actually this platform for most of our team members. Actually, this is the first time, and a big shout out actually for my whole team, because I know with the day job it was difficult, but we made it actually to this point. So kudos to the whole team, and thank you.
Wow. All I have to say is I'm actually really glad I wasn't a judge on the fall 2021 Katas. Hey, there's something that I really wanted to point out with what Pentagram did. As a matter of fact, a great problem statement on there. But did you notice one thing? They mapped the characteristics over to the star rating chart that Neil and I created in our book, The Fundamentals of Software Architecture. But they did something extra, which is critical in that whole process. They applied what's called domain to architecture isomorphism. In other words, all the star ratings really did map towards microservices. But that's only the first step, because that identifies candidates. Domain to architecture isomorphism is basically matching the shape of your problem to the shape of the architecture. And Pentagram 2021 did a really good job at matching that shape, because while microservices might have had the best star ratings, Pentagram 2021 identified the fact that they are a startup and it might not be feasible. And that's a great example of that domain to architecture isomorphism. So I just wanted to call that out on Pentagram 2021, and also really good and effective use of the C4 modeling technique throughout your diagrams.
That's one of the things I wanted to call out, is you always have to decide, are you going to do your own thing in terms of diagrams? You're going to choose an existing standard. So they did a really good job of using C4 and fitting their architecture inside the C4 world. And also really great presentation, although I feel compelled to nitpick one small tiny thing in their presentation. They misspelled O'Reilly on the first slide, which is an easy thing to do, but they misplaced the I and the E. And so But that shouldn't take away from the technical merits of their presentation, which were really quite nice.
You know, another thing, Neil, that I really liked this practice of identifying strategic versus tactical areas and where complexity. I love that little grid that they showed, as a matter of fact, because it really does identify areas to focus on for effort versus those things that we could just simply purchase something. It really isn't strategic to our business. I thought that was a really good in that thought process piece.
All right, judges, do you have anything you want to comment on Pentagram 2021 before we move to the next one?
I think that Neil, they really did a good job of doing a good analysis on architecture characteristics and how and which one are applied, prioritize them, and how they map to the domain, what is important and not. And especially on the data and the HIPAA side of the concerns on the architecture here. I do have one nitpicky thing, just like you, Neil, was around involving the whole team in the presentation, right? Like we could see that one person was doing all the talking, and at the same time, the diagrams and things like that were probably not adapted for a different presentation style. The repo was more about like documentation and things like that. The PowerPoint or the presentation was probably about communicating that ideas. So maybe some adaptation could have been done as a nice to have. Other judges, anything else to add? All right, moving on to the next team, the Archangels with a space.
Hello, everyone. We are Team Archangels with a space. We are delighted to be here. Thanks a lot for choosing our solution. Let me start with the pharmacy family vision. It is to basically extend pharmacy food, build and nurture relationship, and build community. We extracted and inferred requirement from various sources, such as maintaining user profiles, providing features like chat, forum, bulletin board, maintain content, and analytical capabilities. These are the key architecture characteristics that we have come up with. I would like to emphasize on cost and security, as Pharmacy Food is a startup firm with limited resources and plan to store PII and medical records information. We came up with a data flow diagram between the existing and the new components. I'm not going to go into the details of it. However, I do want to call out two things. One, to reduce cost and time to market, we are heavily relying on open source systems. As you can see, most of the new components we have added, we have recommended open source libraries, which are easily deployable on AWS. Second, we are recommending using AWS analytics and data lake capabilities and pay-as-you-go model.
Another important role of an architect, besides designing new solutions at a reduced cost, is to ensure easy integration. That aim, along with the goal of reusing the current system as much as possible, resulted in an architectural approach which was essentially a hybrid of different patterns: modular monolith, event source-based, and microservices. We took the original Arc Collider component diagram with the old components shown here in white and added new components to the same diagram shown here in green. The main motivation of using the same diagram was to promote adaptability and to easily visualize where these new components would fit into the existing picture or architecture. A good example of adaptability and extendability of components can be seen in our catalog and fulfillment subsystem. We noticed that from an architectural point of view, ordering a meal, choosing an educational course, or choosing a community to join are all similar actions. The only place where they really differ is in how they are fulfilled. So while meal pickup fulfills a meal order, we use resource delivery to fulfill all our other orders. This resource delivery could use the existing notification system or the new community forum to deliver content. This also means that all the existing user scenarios in Arc Collider can easily be adapted to incorporate new features. Here at the bottom, we show an example of our Collider's meal order user scenario, which was slightly modified to show a user registering for a course.
Another component, user profile and access control subsystem, is a new component in our architecture. The purpose of this component is to enable the right pharmacy family users to access the right resources at the right times for the right reasons. It can be further divided into identity and user profile and access control subcomponents. The style of architecture we have chosen here is microservices. It can communicate with other services through simple APIs. As pharmacy family grows, we can scale this component independent of the whole application, maintaining separation of concerns unlike in monolithic architecture. We are utilizing services from AWS like our other components since we have limited resources to start with. This component can be built by one or more small teams from the beginning, separated by service boundaries. Security and privacy are major concerns when handling PII. A known cloud provider like AWS would generally implement industry standards for authentication and encryption and the latest laws and regulations like HIPAA for medical records and PCI compliance for credit card and cardholder data. We could leverage this and reduce the time to launch.
Now, while we enjoyed working this assignment very much and we are excited about where we have landed so far, there are a few items that we would like to do before we are ready to hand over the architecture to the build team. However, these require access to pharmacy foods, access to customers, and access to the current tech environment, which is why we are proposing the following next steps. As Preeti explained, our current understanding is actually extracted and inferred from a variety of different sources. Hence, we believe that the first critical step is to validate our understanding of the requirements and the assumptions that we have taken along the way. And this is exactly what we intend to do in the first 2 weeks, leading to a definition of a formal product vision in week 3. Now, not all requirements are equally critical, right? And don't need to be released at the same time. Hence, in week 4, we will do a prioritization. And once we know which requirements are critical, we'll pick the top 1 or 2 and then run some POCs to ensure that the fitment and suitability of our architectural choices. We would rather fail fast than go down the suboptimal path for too long. In addition to running these POCs, we would also do a detailed cost analysis because frugality is right in the middle and center of our thinking. Finally, we'll synthesize all the inputs and learning from the POCs to refine our architecture and finally hand over the architecture to the build team. On behalf of the team, let me express my gratitude to O'Reilly, ThoughtWorks, and everyone involved in organizing this event, and for giving us this opportunity. So thank you so much.
All right. Well, I'll echo Mark and say I'm glad I'm not judging this competition. I don't know if you've ever put together a video presentation like that with multiple speakers and slides. It's really difficult to come up with a good tight 5 minutes like that. There are a lot of things that I really liked about that presentation, starting with the Venn diagram they had at the beginning that showed how that fits in the rest of the world, and continued, I thought, really nice job of showing the existing components with the new ones overlaid on top of them. What a great way to visualize the fact that this is an extension of an existing system. And then finally, they went all the way to create an actual timetable, which is above and beyond. We were just asking for architecture structure here, and they went all the way into to process. So a really, really nice job from Archangels.
Yeah, I'm gonna echo Neil on several points, but the one in particular, the next steps, was actually pretty cool. Seeing that, I think a lot of times when we create an architecture or describe our architecture, it kind of just ends at the architecture. And I thought that was a well thought out plan of this is what we do next. The other thing I kind of wanted to call out, I love the data flow piece at the beginning. That I thought was really cool to see that kind of called out as a separate piece of the major flows there. And also one thing that's near and dear to my heart, of course, is, and it's somewhat of a pet peeve of mine, I guess you can say, is the practice of identifying all these great architectural characteristics, those ilities, and then creating an architecture and not taking them into account anymore. And I loved the demonstration of those architecture characteristics and the exposition of those in your architecture diagrams and slides. I thought that was really, really good.
Yeah, good point, Mark and Neil. I also thought they did a really good job of showing the existing architecture. Like in the beginning, Neil was talking about integration, right? This kata is talking about integration, about the existing architecture and the newer thing that we are building on top. And they showed like what were the existing components, what were the new components that were overlaid on top, and where are the integration points. That was a good touch up with color-coded slide that talked about the old as well as the new things they are building on top. And a good involvement of the rest of the team presenting and transition. It's really difficult to make that video, but that worked out pretty good. All right, moving on to the next team here is Berlin Bears.
As almost every university student, I had struggled a lot to keep a healthy diet. Scarce options, time pressure, and limited budget are sample factors that drove me to treat nutrition as an overdue homework assignment, something that must be completed fast. Such poor diet decisions are conducted by millions of people on a daily basis, from a working mother to a busy worker. How important healthy food is rather known to everyone. However, we are pushed to favor a short-term, accessible, cheap, and time-saving nutrition solution, namely fast food, and ignoring long-term catastrophic implications like obesity and heart diseases. We Berlin Bears are passionate about making a difference in people's life. That's why we decided to enhance an existing certified healthy food option to make it widely accessible to customers. Not only you as a customer will enjoy an easily ordered and affordable healthy meal, but you will also benefit from a personalized follow-up and regular health reports that are directly shared with your physician. Our solution is different because it addresses your privacy concerns as a priority. Our process is different because it minimizes waste and delivers value fast. Our software architecture is different because it's design optimal, agile, flexible, extendable, reliable, evolvable, and efficient. The following 4 minutes will dig deeper and unravel those aspects, starting by your journey as a customer.
Hello, it's Andrei. Today we are going through customer journey with Mia, 31 years old, first responder who needs a special diet during her long shifts during the COVID. Mia has no time to check all the possible options what to eat. In internet, she quickly found some article about special FR diet provided by Pharmacy Food. She had some doubts and decided to discuss it later with her colleague. Luckily, her colleague already tried this diet and gave her a good recommendation. She decided to order and found that Smart Fridge is located in the hospital. Big surprise. She goes down and takes a nice portion. After the lunch, she received an invitation to speak with the dietitian about her first responder diet. She agrees to arrange a call with a nutritionist on Monday. As first responder, she is super happy to have a nice meal and personal nutritionist. All this will be possible with new recommendation analytics system. It collects multiple data points, please check the slide, during the whole customer journey and helps Pharmacy Food to quickly adapt to this situation on the market. Next, we will speak about architecture.
This section covers the architecture, including stakeholder characteristic and solution. First step was defining stakeholders and their interest. As a customer, I need a remarkable user experience, and I need to be sure that my sensitive data are well secured. As a pharmacy food management, I want to go to market in a short time with a limited budget, and it's important to reuse existing system and ensure scalability. Zooming into the solution, a mobile and web application will be offered to end user, focusing on user experience. Use technology will be decided based on existing apps. To extend existing solutions, the pharmacy food family will be hosted on AWS, and the requirement will be reflected into two main systems, engagement and analytics. Solution will introduce a new serverless custom-built component in order to pay only per actual requests. Security and notifications will be reused from family ordering solution. Community will be built using an open source tool. An additional investigation is needed in order to select best application considering above characteristics. Customer segments will group customers by profile attributes like geographical zone, diet, income, and behavior. And finally, the analytic solution will use AWS Glue and Athena in order to reduce cost. Tableau is already part of pharmacy food and will be reused in family solution for reports. The final system will be like this. Pharmacy food ordering and family systems will feed transactional data into DynamoDB. Analytics system will analyze this data and generate reports for decision makers. Now we will discuss the execution plan.
Our system is only useful if it satisfies your expectations as a customer and exceed it. We are already cooperating with well-established businesses to deliver you value as part of their business. We make sure that your voice is continuously heard, and we gather your feedback in the most convenient way for you. Moreover, we will offer you dozens of analytics and a way to track and store your data. Join our mission and let us create a better life together.
All right, wonderful, good job, Berlin Bears. The one thing that I really loved, I thought it was a well-organized presentation, really effective. Sometimes, as Neil mentioned in the last presentation, it's rather challenging, especially virtually, to bring all these teams together and have everybody's video there, and that sometimes requires some skill that a lot of us don't have. Really effective to actually put your picture while you were speaking. I thought that was really good because I really felt that connection there. So I'm calling that out because this is a really good tip if you don't have the capability or feasibility to do a video on there. You know, the 97 Things books, the one that Neil and I contributed to, 97 Things Every Software Architect Should Know, and then the 97 Things Every Java Developer Should Know, does this same practice where they show the picture with the pages, and it really is effective because you feel like the person's actually there talking with you. So I thought that was really good. Loved the intro part. I thought that was really effective in really describing the overall problem. Neil, any comments?
The opening commercial looked like a commercial, so I mean, it was you could just use that as a public commercial, not just for the Architecture Kata. I thought they did a really good job of addressing where the analytical data was going to go, taking into account the existing system and the improved analytics that are required for this. I thought they did a nice job of highlighting that. Any other comments from judges?
Yeah, I think so too. Like the full team involvement was really nice to see the transitions between them. The other thing I thought, the flow of like from vision to like the customer and then to the architecture was pretty good laid out in terms of like how we got here and what are our problems that we're trying to solve for and how we are going to solve. That flow was pretty nice to see. All right, moving on to the next team here is Architects++.
Hi, I'm Chris Butler, and I represent Architects++, and this is our presentation for the O'Reilly Katas Fall 2021. I'm one of 3 teammates that have put together this presentation and the submission that's on GitHub. Both Uday and Rakesh are architects at Cognizant, and I'm a product manager at Cognizant. We call ourselves Architects++ because we wanted to see what a product manager could do to actually help architects in the job that they do, especially during this kata. And the kata is about taking a previous kata's work around pharmacy foods which is really a way to provide fresh and healthy food to low to middle income areas, and turn it into a more social network, which we'll call Pharmacy Family. So the overall strategy for Pharmacy Foods and Pharmacy Family is really to turn food deserts, which are places that don't have access to grocery stores and other types of fresh and healthy food, and make it so that everyone feels like they're part of a community that helps them make the right choices for their circumstances. And so over 39.5 million people live in places that are food deserts. And so the top reasons why there are food deserts is because of overabundance of convenience food rather than healthy food. And this mostly impacts low-income families. And so you can see here that it's actually a nationwide problem. It is actually a global problem. And so our vision is to really imagine a future where people can get healthy, subsidized, or free food where they take care of their other errands. And that could be places like local health clinics, schools, food banks, pantries, libraries, senior centers, and even subsidized housing. And so as part of this, we took on a bunch of goals from the Kata. And we added 2 more goals on top of the ones that were given to us, really around how do we empower customers to improve their own diets through kind of community help? And then how can they actually meet people where they are and where they usually go? And so that's really, really important. And we used a set of principles to really make the architectural decisions that we made. One of them is to really value partnership with other services or using other types of platforms rather than just rolling our own. That's also to provide seamlessness with the rest of the Pharmacy Food website rather than creating new silos that would keep people in different places. And finally, really allowing for direct connection between people rather than always depending on intermediation by experts and the experts having the final word. So now I'll hand it over to Uday to talk about the architecture.
We have multiple sections, and I'm going to quickly walk you through the various subsections so that I will be making you more interested in looking into the details over here. First and foremost, we are looking to have commonly understood semantics and ideals, which goes a long way. No point reinventing the wheel. Any positive implications of standard architecture principles is good for the long-term architecture and support for the application and other solutions. The other sections are related to the various dimensions we typically do for architecture, data being a big aspect of this, availability, performance. Some of these sections obviously do not have a major requirement like performance because the user base is small, but there are obviously bigger important sections like how do we train the recommendation engine, which is obviously an AI ML component of the overall solution. How do we manage the data, the access to the data, and so on and so forth. We have a few here, and there's more in the ADRs. There's no major requirements for workflows. Regulatory, obviously, HIPAA is a big issue, and we have that covered in detail in ADR number 1. When it comes to security, which I think I should be having at the very top, HIPAA considerations should be primary. Pharmacy being a very small company, I cannot pretty much come in with my enterprise hat and require this and that, but we do want to make sure they are not in the news. And there's some basic rules of thumb for smaller companies. Don't put sophistication in there. People will make mistakes, and so whether it comes to the management of access controls or to the end users also giving each other access, keep it simple. Moving on to actual solutioning and detailing the architecture, we are clearly starting from the domain-driven design. We do have a lot of the domains, and we tend to also mix in the business functions. Some are business functions along with the capabilities, abilities, and we do have a detailed diagram that covers that. And in addition, we have the reference architectures for the web applications. There are multiple web applications in here, and there is a reference architecture for the backends that involve a lot of things that go on in the back. We don't think there's any real-time requirements that pharmacy needs at this point in time, but we can consider those and change this. The most important thing is our recommendation engine, and this is the architecture for the recommendation engine. We're proud of it.
Thank you, Uday. And if you want to find out more, you can go to bit.ly/pharmacykata to see our entire submission. And thank you.
All right.
All right. Thank you, Architects Plus Plus. That was a nice presentation. There were 3 things I wanted to highlight about that. One, I think it was smart having a product owner there, a product manager there, rather than just a group of architects, because that gave some interesting insight. And the first part of that was a lot more business focused, I think, than what an architect would have created, which is kind of nice. The second was I really like, and one of the enduring legacies of the Agile Manifesto is that left over right construction that was used there about, while both have value, we prefer the left thing over the right thing. And I thought they did a good job of pitching what their solution was there. And I also like the idea that rather than go into extraordinary detail, this is very much an overview with links into finding out more about what they were offering.
The other aspect, I really loved the principles part that you did at the beginning of that. Really kind of outlined a lot of those constraints and guiding principles that you are going to use to move forward. And I thought that was really effective. I really enjoyed that piece. What a great phrase to settle in on how much security not be in the news. I like that. I've heard that referenced before at multiple client sites I'm at, but it's a good metric to consider. Anyways, Pramod, any comments, thoughts?
Yeah, like you said, I think introduction of the PO, I like that concept a lot, like gave the business context to what we are trying to do, and it showed in the difference, right? The one nitpick thing I would have for this was the transition, like where the PO had made all the slides and stuff, and when it transitioned to the tech, it was navigating the existing docs. Maybe the transition could have been easy, like use the same style for both sides would have been like given a nicer transition to people who are watching. That's all I had. Moving on to the next team here, the Archangels. Without a space here, we have 2 teams that are named Archangels. One is Arc Space Angels, and this is Archangels without a space.
Welcome to our entry to O'Reilly Architecture 2021. Pharmacy Foods is an existing system designed by Arch Collider in the previous O'Reilly architectural kata. Pharmacy Family is an enhancement to the system to cater to the needs of customers like Miriam and Oliver. Pharmacy Foods has helped Miriam improve her diet, but she doesn't know where to take it from there. She wishes to share her experiences and goals with other like-minded people and get help from experts. Oliver is foster father to Lance, who has had hard time with undiagnosed food intolerances. Oliver now knows what his son needs from his diet, but it isn't always available. How do we satisfy these customers? We begin the architectural analysis. We identified key characteristics that affect the whole system or part of it. Architectural characteristics are shaped by domains that do not overlap. So a distributed architecture is required. We are looking for an architectural style with the least trade-offs. We highlighted key architectural characteristics in green. The top 3 are interoperability, configurability, and authorization. We considered microservices and event-driven architectures. Both score high on elasticity, scalability, and fault tolerance. Workflow is important for onboarding customers, and it scores highly in event-driven style. The configurability is low, but configurability of the profile is a concern, not that of the system. This led us to our decision to use event-driven architecture. Our architecture leads us to the following system design. a functional view of the requirements from the pharmacy family system. Event storming leads us to a better understanding of the events and their interaction. A context diagram is the entry point. It shows how the main users of pharmacy family interact with the system. A container diagram then shows the high-level components and their interactions. Component diagrams for each individual component drill down further. Pharmacy family will consist of three major components: an analytic subsystem to analyze data from pharmacy foods to enable a more targeted approach to stocking smart fridges, a community subsystem to nurture relationships between groups of customers with similar needs and provide them with a gateway to personalized expert subject matter, and an engagement subsystem to bring more people into pharmacy family. Integration between the systems enables analytics engine to feed back into pharmacy foods, allowing in-time restocking of fridges with what's popular and therefore less wastage. Oliver has a genuine concern whether his son's private information is secure. Security is one of the top architectural characteristics considered. Our ADR recommends a high security COTS solution such as Skyflow to store medical data. We come to the analytics requirements. Analytics uses data such as geographical trends, ingredients, dietary and medical needs for analysis. The results for a locale drive the food distributed to the fridge in that locale by pharmacy foods. We considered the different types of data storage. We evaluated the strengths and weaknesses of the storage options, graph, relational, blob, and document storage against the requirements. For highly connected data and analytics, graph database would be used. For large unstructured binary files like images, blob storage would be optimal. An overview of the graph data model. It would be further divided into more detailed models for medical, pharmacy foods, and community domains. With the required architecture and system design in place, we looked at the deployment and the roadmap. High-level infrastructure diagram shows how the solution can be realized. The deployment on AWS has been designed in a similar manner to the pharmacy foods for consistency. The solution is implemented and pharmacy family comes alive. Happy users of the pharmacy family and pharmacy foods. They interact with fellow members, get expert advice on nutrition, and feed according to their medical and dietary need.
All right, thank you, Archangels. Boy, lots of notes here. I love the identification of the domains, and the thing I really want to call out here, which was just so clear. Actually, before I do that, if I'm not mistaken, that was probably done with most of your diagrams with Excalibur, which I am a huge fan of. I don't know. It's so nice looking at those kind of diagrams with the color and the shading and the sketches as opposed to the traditional things we always see. So I'm a big fan of Excalibur, so I recognize some of those drawings. But one of the things I really wanted to call out that I really loved was the different compartmentalized subsystems, those domains. In other words, there were three: the analytics, the engagement, and the customer. And I thought that was just done so well. It was very clean. And the use of event-driven architecture then decouples these subsystems and allows information flows back and forth between them. I thought that was really, really clean in the overall solutioning. I thought it was really just really well organized.
Yeah, I thought I really like the organization. I love the sort of pseudo analog roughness of Excalidraw, because everything you see is so polished now. A little bit of analog noise goes a long way, and I think that is actually quite useful in the early stages of architecture, not to provide something that is too slick, to let people realize that no, this is still a design that hasn't been implemented yet. So a little bit of rough analogness I think helps convey that in a subtle sort of psychological way. The other thing I really liked about their presentation is they ended with the perfect future state that's going to happen once this has been implemented, and ends with a ray of sunshine and a great sort of kick in the pants to realize what the world could be like if you'd just be smart enough to implement their architectural solution. So it's a great bit of selling there toward the very end.
Yeah, thanks, Neil. I think I had the same kind of comments. Probably the team also talked in detail about the data choice. So I was really happy about that, like what kind of data data storage they're going to pick for analytics and a good analysis of the 4 big types that we talked about in the NoSQL Distill book, and why would they pick the graph database and why it is the right choice for that kind of analysis. Was a good take on like storage technology and the trade-offs made in picking the right storage technology. All right, moving on to the next team here.
Welcome to O'Reilly Architectural Katas Autumn 20 and 21, and let me introduce our architectural proposal for the Pharmacy Family project. Our team is a group of friends from the IT department of Severstal company with software development and design background. First of all, let me tell a few words about Pharmacy Food. It is a healthy food startup that creates tasty meals around people's dietary needs and active lifestyle. Technically, Pharmacy Food is a monolithic system, and customers interact with Pharmacy Food through cross-platform web and mobile applications, smart fridges, and points of sales. And the Pharmacy Family will be an enhancement of existing Pharmacy Food system and will involve customers into a community of people with the same perception of healthy eating and lifestyle. Here are some main requirements on the slide. The product owner establishes the following business goals. We also described a huge list of user stories in our documentation. We discovered a number of stakeholders, including dietitians, community administrators, technical people, and of course the Pharmacy Food team members. Also, we captured a number of constraints which drive all our architectural decisions. We distilled several key functional areas of Pharmacy Family system: rich user profile, social network functionality, webinars, integration with clinics, and data analysis for food and health recommendations and optimization of logistics. Evaluating the functional modules that need to be implemented, as well as the architectural principles, we suggest choosing a service-based architecture style with holistic user interface and number of services, event-based integration approach, and the central S3 storage. The target architecture must support goals, user scenarios, and constraints described in the proposed solution while satisfying the quality attributes. There are some global quality attributes, and also we discovered several individual quality attributes for the certain parts of the system. We documented a list of decision records, and let me introduce some of them. Based on the requirements provided, we need to develop social network functionalities such as groups, profiles, blogs, chats, and others. We proposed a ready-to-use platform because it could be much cheaper in development and maintenance, but also quite flexible. Webinars platform is a quite complex thing, and we suggest to integrate with ready-to-use online service. We also propose to incorporate new functionality into existing pharmacy food mobile and web applications by refactoring existing code. We suggest using native development for mobile and micro front ends for web applications. Regarding stakeholders' requirements, we should improve the logistics and reduce the level of the food waste in smart fridges. The next big thing is to improve advice and monitoring of customers. We propose solution for this based on data analysis and artificial intelligence. The pharmacy family system must comply with legal requirements. We must avoid security risks with authentication, authorization, TLS for encryption of sensitive data using private subnets, VPNs, and others. We also propose AWS services eligible for HIPAA. Development view allows us to understand the final list of services and connections in the AWS ecosystem. Everything changes eventually, and the pharmacy family will have to deal with business-driven changes and ecosystem changes. We try to follow several common characteristics of evolutionary architectures in our solution. We want to thank O'Reilly and all the judges for the opportunity to work on such an interesting challenge. See you and have a great day.
A very pretty presentation with a soundtrack, which is unusual for an architecture presentation. I really like to say one of the points that I make in one of the online classes I do is mastering technical presentations. Is part of the thing that distinguishes a presentation from just a document is manipulating time. And their big architecture diagram where they gradually layered on parts of their solution is a great example of that, because if they'd shown a final version of that right out of the gate, it'd be way too complicated. But because they built it up one step at a time, you could sort of see how the pieces fit into place. So I thought that was a very effective way to illustrate their solution incrementally.
Yeah, you know what, Neil, I'd have to agree. That was the first comment I have on, well, actually, it was the second comment I had. I love the constraint section. It flashed too quickly for me to grab all of them, but I got some of them on the presentation. But it's so important to call out on those constraints. But I agree wholeheartedly with you, Neil. I thought that was a really effective way of creating a clean, comprehensive diagram and utilize the use of layering to kind of show the different aspects, which maintains that representational consistency. In other words, switching to another view gets you a little confused about where are we at now here. And it was pretty clear where we were at in the identification of the different parts and domains and areas. So I thumbs up on that as well.
Great. On to the next team here. We have
one left, and then we're going to take a break and then let you pick your winners, and then we'll show you which ones the winners chose. So one more.
Hello, everyone. We are Elephant on a Cycle team. My name is Sergey.
Hi, my name is Satar.
Hi, I'm Natalie.
Hello, I'm Samuel. We'd like to tell you about more important but less visible architectural characteristics which we choose for all solutions.
An increase in the number of users can lead to system failure. Pharmacy family includes many different components. These are forums, email, reference material, lesson information, and messaging between the user and the service worker, for example, dietitian, technical support. Therefore, our team chose ADR2 to make each component a cloud application. This will help to easily increase the capacity of each component as the load increases.
We understand that loss of data that is being transmitted through the pharmacy family systems is HIPAA compliant. We also understand that pharmacy family is a startup and can't invest lots of resources and efforts into the architecture and into the cloud resources. Thus, we have taken two decisions. The first one is to choose the third-party platform for storing the EHR records. The second one is to choose the Zero Trust architecture pattern, and thus we enable the authorization between all the companies that the pharmacy family's infrastructure has.
Requirements by themselves divide the functionality into order processing and engagement. Seamless integration requirements drive us to micro-frontend UI architecture, which is a reflection of domain partitioning. At last but not least, these characteristics supported by other characteristics we chose. By understood engagement is communication most of all. We get various types of communications from requirements. Now we see which types of interactions pharmacy food and family customers have with other users. This slide is show us technical representation of splitting communications into domains. We make own app for each communication type. Each communication type goes through own channel imaged by own rules.
The last but not least characteristic is elasticity. Elasticity is especially important for the system with continuously changing load. We will always be ready for growing number of requests to the system, no matter what happens. The beginning or the end of the working day, weekends or holidays, marketing promotions, news in the media. At the same time, we do not want to spend money on additional expensive infrastructure when the number of requests decreases. As soon as load will be reduced, we will free up our unused resources. If the servers for storing data or processing calculation do not occupy a half of the data center, we want the system to get elasticity. AGR2, each component must be cloud native, will provide us with the ability to use any public cloud and achieve the requirement. All these architectural characteristics are not just words. We can measure them and observe for any change. Especially, it's important in lean development process. They could drift significantly. Therefore, we have designed some fitness function in our solution. Thank you for your attention and see you on next Katas.
All right, fantastic. I love your team name. That's so funny. Hey, one of the first things I thought was really great in your presentation was meeting the team. I thought that was really cool. It's hard to integrate that video again, and to have that clip at the start really gave it a personal touch. And I love meeting the teams, and so that was fantastic. As you heard from a prior presentation, one of my pet peeves is tying back architecture characteristics and demonstrating those in the architecture. I love in 5 minutes is not a lot of time to put together a description of your architecture. And I really appreciate how you framed it based on these are the characteristics that are important, and this is how the architecture supports that. I thought that was really effective.
Yeah, I thought you did a really good job of calling out the individual things like elasticity and a good way to present those, although you may be a tad overambitious saying that you can design a system that can work with any public cloud, just with a drop of a hat. That may be a little trickier to implement than what was proposed, but I appreciate the polycloud independence goal that you have as part of your solution. So that was nicely done, and a good way to think about protecting, future-proofing your solution. So you've now seen all of the videos. Now remember, our judges have also seen these videos, but they've also done a very deep dive into each of these repos. And so what we're going to do now is take a 10-minute break, and we're going to put out a poll to you like this. And you get to decide which team you thought won. Now, if you want to do a little more research in their repos during the 10-minute break, you can. You don't have to choose your answer until the break is over. We're going to take a 10-minute break now. We'll leave the poll up, and when we get back, our judges will show you the third, second, and first place winners and why. All right, welcome back, everybody. It is officially your last chance to vote for which one of the teams you think did the best job for the katas. We'll give you a couple of seconds to do that before we push the results live. and see who you think won. Of course, you're not. All of the attendees don't have quite as much context as the judges, and I'll go ahead and take this opportunity to thank the judges. It is a long, difficult job to go through and look at all these solutions and do the evaluation. So they did a greatly appreciated job of picking our winners. Here's what the audience thinks. Remember, we have two archangels. We have one with the space and one without the space. And so it looks like the archangels with the space has the most votes there, Mark. Now, and let's
Interesting,
see.
Yes.
Yeah, and Sever Crew and Archangels with the space is number 2, or without the space is number 2, and then Architects Plus and Berlin Bears tied. All right.
It's always interesting to see this, Neil. Because most everybody has only seen, unless you voted for your own, most people have only seen the presentation without diving into the details, and that kind of first impression of the architecture ends up seemingly being important.
Indeed. Okay, so let's see what the judges said. So we will turn it over to the judges now and get their expert evaluation.
So hi, I'm David Bach, and I'm announcing our third place winner. So our third place winner is Architects Plus Plus. Can I get a golf clap from all the judges for Architects Plus Plus? So your solution might have been my favorite holistically. The judges agreed your solution really understood the scrappy startup nature of pharmacy foods and the problems that they need to solve, especially around security. I loved that one of your guiding principles for security was to not be in the news. What a great example of the reality of that situation. You've really thought about the fact that pharmacy foods is a small company, a small budget, and worked out how to handle, and even also how to explain to stakeholders requirements like that. But the competition was tough, and we have some critiques for you. We agreed that your data models needed to have some more detail to them. The depth that we wanted to see just wasn't there. Your hexagonal architecture diagram was really low res. As a result, it didn't feel like it was as well thought out and incorporated into the rest of the materials. Finally, the judges were mixed on having one long README. While it provided the complete narrative we were looking for me, it didn't use the strength of the version control platform to demonstrate the structure of your narrative and illustrate the evolution of things like requirements and decision records. I don't want that to distract from this achievement. Third place in this crowded field with this kind of talent present is an accomplishment worthy of your resumes. A small point you did well, but one that many teams left out was that the metadata around things like architecture decision records, things like their status. For this exercise, I expect to see ADRs that made it at least to the accepted stage. After all, if they're becoming part of your final presentation, I would hope you've accepted them. I appreciated seeing that from you. That's one of those metadata things in the repo that I like to see about the evolution. Finally, your video presentation was great. I especially liked the way each speaker had vocal variety and that you made the handoff and introduction to the next speaker as part of your individual presentations. Thank you for submission and congratulations on your third place finish.
All right, thank you, David. I'm going to announce the second place here. The second place, ding, 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 is Server Crew. The judges liked a lot about the Server Crew, especially the good layout, nice little C4 diagrams. They even attached their Miro boards, all the thinking that went behind the decision making. Even the infrastructure diagram was there. We also saw a lot of risks and security and things like that were being discussed. What are the risks for certain types of decisions that were taken, and how it helped them to arrive at the decision that helped pick the right kind of architecture or the architecture that they were showing. Maybe some critique for you would be maybe use full time that was available, allocated to you to make the presentation. There was also a lot of, I would say, emphasis on certain things that could have been made a little bit more relevant or maybe made a little bit more explicit in terms of how you were working with those things. Overall, a very good effort, and we really like the way your solution scored in our matrix that Mark had put up for us. So thank you. So I'm going to let Emily announce the first place winner here.
Thank you. It's a real honor to get to announce the first place winner. So I think I really have to make sure that there's a long pause to just get the suspense really up there. So I'm very delighted to announce the first place winner of the O'Reilly Architectural Katas in 2021, the autumn, is... It's Archangels without a space. And we were actually completely unanimous on this, all the judges. And I've just put on this slide just some of the comments that the judges have made. We've got a shared document where we analyze all the submissions and share our thoughts. And I just wanted to share that because this was a really, really good submission. It was... these are all the categories that we were looking at, the clarity of narrative and organization, and this was really easy to follow. Well organized Git repo, all the information was there and indexed. The completeness of the solution, yeah, we were particularly looking here at the data model and the security and the integration with the existing solution. And I think this really did this well, all of those aspects. Then we've got the architecture characteristics, and you just did this by the book, working out what they were and how to use them. The diagrams, there were diagrams for everything. The architecture decision records, they were thorough, and they were really documenting a process rather than just kind of saying what we decided at the end. It was, you could see them being developed and integrated with the rest of the architecture description. The final presentation was excellent. You've all seen it. We liked the named personas. That really helped us to understand. And just overall, this was the best package, we thought. And I'm really pleased to give all this credit to the Archangels. Good job, people. They must have worked so hard on this. Well done. So I'm going to hand back to Pramod now to talk about the runners-up.
Right. So of the 7 finalists that we picked, you saw the 3rd place, the 2nd place, and the 1st place. The remaining 4 teams are Elephant on Cycle, really cool logo they had. The Pentagram 2021, the Berlin Bears with the amazing intro video they had, the Archangels with the space, nice little next steps things they had at the end. So I want to talk a little bit about all 4 teams that we liked and also mention that there was very, very well effort that was put in. Like the Berlin Bears had a really good final presentation video, like nice to look at, good graphics in there, good team transition between who was talking and that. And like Mark mentioned, the photos of the people who are talking at the top of the slide deck was a nice touch, showing who is speaking and their kind of stuff. They covered all the topics. They talked about the lean flow, the lean inception, and how that applies and that kind of stuff. Although like a little critique was they went from that to like talking a little bit about all the AWS specific stuff they were going to use and things like that. So the transition was a little off, I would say. The Archangels with the space, they covered a lot. Like I think the nice step we really liked was the next steps they talk about. What about after? What are the steps we are going to take after the architecture is defined? How are we going to talk to the customer, the users, and the existing tech team, the tech stack, and all that kind of stuff? How are we going to bring all of that? The stakeholders, how are we going to include that? So that was a good touch to include in this architecture, because architecture, just because you present an architecture doesn't mean you're done. You need to take it further, involve all the stakeholders, and take them further, right? So that was a nice little touch. The Elephant on Cycle team did a lot of like in-depth discussion about the architecture characteristics, how they picked. They even had like fitness function and how do you measure the architecture characteristics and what needs to be measured and things like that. That was really nice to look at the measurement of the architectural characteristics themselves. And the Pentagram really did a good job. Pentagram 2021 really did a good job on like quality attributes. How are they going to do? What is the analysis they're going to do? How the analysis showed up? How they're going to use those to like further design their architecture and things like that. So, like, don't be like just because you didn't win doesn't mean that there are some things we didn't like. There are a lot of things we liked overall in the matrix of scoring, and when we put all these scores back together, the three teams were, like Emily said, clear winners, first, second, and third, and the other four teams did good job on some aspects of these things. Neil, Mark, any final words?
Yeah, I think it's interesting, and it's always interesting when Mark and I do this, even for the little tiny ones we do as a class exercise. We often assign the same kata to multiple teams, and one of their fears is always, well, if we're doing the same kata, won't we come up with the exact same architecture? And we always laugh and say, don't worry, it's not going to be a problem. And I think you can see that here in a slightly more complex problem. We had a variety of completely different topologies from the outset. Even though they're dealing with the same kind of concerns, there are no correct answers in architecture. They're just different sets of trade-offs. And as we see, different teams attack those different trade-offs in slightly different ways by choosing different architecture styles and emphasizing one part versus the other.
Yeah. And I'll actually piggyback on your comment, Neil, by also saying that although this is kind of a fun exercise, it's also A, helping pharmacy foods, and B, it's providing a valuable resource for the community to be able to see examples of architecture decision records of how to put together and describe an architecture. And so I applaud all of the teams, including the winners and the semifinalists. These are great resources. Please leverage these. You can compare, as Neil said, different ways and different approaches just to gain more knowledge and experience in architecture. So congratulations, teams.
And you may have noticed that one of our judges didn't appear today, Cassie. She was here, she dialed in, she did all the work leading up to this, including the judging, and then a dead laptop is the one that prevented her. She was actually here for the first half of the session today, but then her laptop battery died and couldn't get it back to life. So thanks to Cassie, even though she couldn't be here, and a special thanks to all four of the judges. This is an enormous amount of work, which Mark can attest to and empathize with firsthand, but it's a great amount of work to put in, and they did a great analysis and came up with a great set of criteria for some clear winners. And thank you to all of the teams for the enormous amount of work, the most amount of work of anybody here of putting together these architecture solutions and including the really fantastically good presentations. And I'll let Mark talk about how much work this is from a judging standpoint and give a hats off to the judges as well.
Oh yeah, hats off to the judges. This is a three-stage process that is rather time-consuming and rather difficult, especially as submissions start getting more and more sophisticated. So absolutely, this is a tough process. We have started to refine it a little more to gain some consistency between the different kata superstreams, but hats off to the judges. I think this was probably one of the most difficult to judge out of all three that we've done so far.
And a special thank you to Pharmacy Foods and Kwaiku, who runs Pharmacy Food, for providing us yet again, and I guess calling this a meaty topic would be a little bit of too much of a pun since we're talking about a food service provider, but a great a foil to let us design our architectural solutions against. So thanks to Pharmacy Food, and we will hand over our Pharmacy Family solution from Archangels Without the Space to Pharmacy Food, and hopefully they can implement it alongside the Arc Collider solution for our first round of katas. So that's all we have for today. Once again, thanks for the judges for all the hard work. I'll let them say goodbye, one each. We'll start in the order they're there with Emily.
Yeah, well, thank you. It's been a real pleasure to be part of this competition and to see all your solutions. I've enjoyed discussing them all with the other judges and coming up with these short comments here. I do hope that everyone who's taken part will be encouraged to continue to do architecture and to do it well. So thank you. I'll hand to the next judge. I don't know, actually, Cassie, she's still probably not here, isn't she, because of her laptop problems. So I'll just hand straight to Pramod then.
All right. Thank you, Emily. So yeah, like everyone said, this was a really great experience. Me being a first-time judge, this was one immense amount of work and at the same time really gratifying to see all kinds of different ways of solutioning, different ways of showing diagrams, even presentation styles. It was really nice to see the variety in those things and how people actually arrived at certain solutions, the analysis they put in behind to get to the solutions that came up. So it was really fun. And hope, like Neil said, use this as a learning opportunity, look at other people's presentations, other people's content, to learn from that so that the muscles of architecture decision-making get better. So thank you very much. I'll pass this on to David.
Thank you, Pramod. So they say that one of the best ways to learn is to teach. I'm going to amend that and say that another good way to learn is to judge. I have learned so much looking through the compare and contrast of the different solutions to the same problems. And I've used some of the repos with people I work with to say, look, that's a good example of an architecture decision record, or look, that's a great diagram. What tool do they use to do that? I want to incorporate that into our workflow. So I encourage you, if you've been following along, if you've been participating in the contest, go and look at the other repos as you get access to them. You will learn so much by comparing and contrasting the solutions between those. I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Yep, one of the observations Mark and I have always made is this creates a great corpus of architecture solutions you can go and compare against each other, which is a great way to see the things that you like and pick up ideas and pick up blind spots in your own presentations. Like, oh, I didn't think of doing that, but that really makes for a much more effective presentation. It's really rare to see that much openly available architecture effort that you can just go cherry pick because most of the time that much effort is behind a locked wall somewhere at some organization. So it is a great learning opportunity. It's a great resource to have after the fact. All right, I think we are done for Katas in fall of 2021. So thank you, judges. Thank you, teams. Thank you, O'Reilly, for hosting this. Thank you, Pharmacy Foods, for giving us a problem. Thanks to Mark for co-hosting with me.
You bet. And also, thank you all so much. I hope you enjoyed this, and stay tuned next year for more Katas.
Indeed. We're going to do it again next year, and we're going to have some surprises next year. And, of course, we're not going to tell you what those are. You're just going to have to come visit us next year. We're going to do it again with bigger, better, louder, flashier, more colors. So thanks, everyone, for attending. We hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned a lot and hope you picked up a lot of valuable architecture advice. Have great holidays, and we will see you next year for Katas 2022.